Welcome to the Quick Stop F1 podcast. My name is Tasha, and you could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. If you're listening, it's Saturday, and that means we are doing the Post-Quali show. This is the final qualifying of 2024 at Abu Dhabi, and joining me for the debrief is Paris. Welcome to the show. It's good to see you again.
Nice to see you too. I'm happy to be here as always.
Yeah. Well, it's been eventful. Couple of race weekends. We have some off-track drama and some stuff that's been happening on track as well. Like, I guess coming into this weekend, like, kind of where are you at, like, with everything? Max and George, Lewis's farewell. Like, what are your kind of thoughts on the moment?
I'm going to be so happy to see the back of 2024. I feel like, I'm happy for Mercedes, like, finally showing Lewis some real love this week. Yeah. I feel like it's been a long time coming, and if I was their PR person, I would have been like doing a proper countdown, like race by race. You've got a triple header. You could have done it over 3 weeks or something like that. I don't know. But at least they are finally, I feel like, giving him the love that he deserves. So that's good. And, the race, the weekend started off very promising with all the practice runs. And then we had Quali. So, I will be very happy to see the end of this season as a Lewis Hamilton fan. Looking forward to next year.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, too. It definitely feels like they jammed his farewell into the final week. And I mean, I think a lot of people clocked it, including Nico Rosberg on the broadcast, which I thought was kind of funny. This whole motto of like, every dream needs a team. And, just kind of like, I feel like they've centered themselves a lot in this farewell. It's not like, they won't still be around. It's more like a farewell to Lewis, who's going off to, another opportunity. So yeah, the fact that it doesn't feel like he's been centered really in all of it, and that it kind of feels like it's been put off to the last possible moment. And then it just kind of feels a little bit like flat. And then, to the point where you have obviously the Mercedes PR team trying to do their best to send him off. But then you've got Toto Wolff on podcast, like still running his mouth in the background. And it's like, why can't you just let us have this one thing? Like every time he says something, I'm just like, my blood pressure is just through the roof. So yeah, I'm ready for 2025.
I think as well, the solidarity that he showed with George this week, when George was beefing Max, and having that press conference and seeing like the picture of Toto standing next to George, like, yes, I'm going to stand next to my man. And I was just like, damn, like, I don't know. I feel like there's been so many situations with Lewis, and even just something like that would have been received well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not in that man's head, and I don't know why he does half the stuff that he does.
Listen. Yeah, you picked up the same stuff I was picking down. I was like, wait, I don't remember a press conference like this for Abu Dhabi. I don't remember press conferences like this when, Lewis was being targeted by the FIA for his jewelry or whatever, crazy shit that they were making up week to week. Like, it's just very strange. Like, he was being racially, abused by the PKs, like all this stuff. It's just like all this stuff has happened in like 3 seasons and never really seen Toto that lit up before. I did think it was kind of funny though that he's basically only there to kind of protect his driver from Christian Horner, but he kind of just dances around Max, because I still feel like he's like, call me if anything changes.
I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, in a weird way, it's quite shrewd from George, because if you make an enemy of Max Verstappen as a team, like, it's an interesting one, because you would think that Max Verstappen as a driver entity is already an enemy of Mercedes because of everything that happened in 2021. But from Toto's words, we know that he was actively pursuing Max Verstappen to come to the seat after Lewis said that he was going to leave. However, I think George understands the jeopardy of his seat. You've got Kimi Antonelli, who's like such a young driver and definitely has a long future ahead of, we hope that he has a long future ahead of him. And that means that, George's seat becomes the precarious one. And then
Right.
You can see that Toto doesn't want to piss off Max, but at the same time, George is kind of pushing it in that direction, because George is like, all right, if I make an enemy of Max, then they can't have him, right? Like they can't bring him in. So I do think George is, it's the whole beef with Max is not as innocent as it seems, and there's a bit of a shrewdness on George's side. That being said, I do think George, out of the two stories that came out of the two camps, like you had Max basically saying that how when they went to the stewards after the quali match, that George was the one who was kind of pressuring the stewards and like really being upset and irate. And I think Christian Horner called him hysterical. And, you know, they basically made out that George was the one who was kind of pushing this kind of negative atmosphere. And Max was just the one who was kind of taken for the ride. And then on the other hand, you have George saying, well, no, Max was the one that was effing and blinding. I walked in there, I didn't say anything for 5 minutes. And Max was the one was like cursing out the stewards for this penalty. Meanwhile, he's doing the same thing on track, asking them to check Lando, check what's happening, blah, blah, blah. And the only reason that George says that he has brought this to the forefront of the media is because as he says, that Max took it personally by calling him a two-faced MFer and blah, blah, blah. So he feels like he needs to defend himself.
Right.
Bearing in mind, all of this is over a quali penalty that went like one grid drop. It's so ridiculous. But I did think that out of the two stories, personally, I do believe George a little bit more. And I don't know if that's because he naturally seems like a calmer person and therefore his credibility stands more. But that I think you can have two scenarios where, yes, his story might be more credible, but he benefits a lot from this scenario happening, right? Like he gets stuff from it.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to agree with like Max, right? Because I think in that moment, like seeing Max's genuine reaction, it did feel more genuine, as in like he felt like taken aback by the fact that, you know, George is lobbying so hard for this penalty in a situation where typically there wouldn't be a penalty applied. So I think it was just like he was kind of like flabbergasted at the notion that suddenly I'm getting, dropped from pole position over like basically some bullshit. And I think like for George, he has to be careful because like, was it last week or like the week before, he was saying like, I'm the one now I'm going to take it to Max, like, you know, in this fight or whatever. And I'm like, I feel like he's like the one you don't want to like piss off to this level, because unlike George, I feel like Max actually can back it up on track. Like for me, this whole like back and forth in the media means nothing if like on track we're not really seeing it play out. So this scenario happens in the stewards room. Max is pissed off. George is pissed off. Like everybody's pissed off. But then when the lights go out, George can't really back it up and follow through. So I don't know. Like I feel like if you're going to lobby that hard to get a position or gain an advantage over your competitor, like you need to be able to keep it. I think like in order for me to like feel like, okay, you really truly like did your thing, keep it, you know, like that's how I felt. So, but I think for me, it was just more like, I think Max was just like, bro, because then today we see in quali, George impedes Liam Lawson and it's dropped. Like there's not even an investigation in it. So I think overall, like one, I would like to see them be more competitive, like on track. As tasty as this beef has been. Definitely, I want to see them drive it out. But I think also, too, it shows like the overarching theme of the season, which has been like the FIA and the stewarding has been so inconsistent. And I think that these drivers are taking it out on each other when they really just need to be jumping the stewards. Like they need to really, truly like be, you know, more angry about what's happening in the officiating side of things, because you know, it can't be a penalty for one and then like one place grid penalty doesn't make any sense. If you're going to apply a penalty, you might as well apply the penalty. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I still feel like they're like it's the pot calling the kettle black type of situation. You know, I don't really see them as terribly different people. So for me, like I said, I just am sitting here like, oh, like, why could this have happened a little bit early in the season so we had more races to fight it out? But maybe it'll boil over into 2025. That's what I'm. That
was literally anyway. My reaction. My reaction was like, "Ooh, the girls are fighting!" Like that was
the girls are fighting.
That was my thoughts. So I was just like, both of you guys are, one's calling the other one two-faced. The other one's like, oh yeah, you're going to slam me into a wall. I'm like, do you not?
Yeah, that's crazy.
George,
yeah.
That was crazy. But I'm also like, George, do you not remember getting out of your car was it Monza, and like going up to Valtteri and being like,
laughing him in the head.
Literally. I'm like,
contact with your hand. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, bro, like at the end of the day, like I fully feel like both of them have had a long-standing beef, and this was just like the straw that broke the camel's back type of thing. Because like you said, like it is over like one place. Max had already tied up the driver championship at that point. Like, I know it's like the principle of the situation, but I'm just like, this feels like some stuff that's been unresolved for a long time. And then they took this opportunity to like just start saying whatever, like George going down the list of all and anything that has happened in the last like 3 or 4 years. Max taking this opportunity to let us know that he no longer respects this man. Like, it's just,
yeah. But again,
insane.
As I said, I think whilst George might have been telling the truth or whatever, but you know, it was interesting that he chose to bring up Abu Dhabi. I will say to his credit, he is one of the few people who has maintained a consistent stance on Abu Dhabi since the beginning. He's maintained like, Lewis was robbed, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like, I feel like him using it for his own benefit is wrong. Right. Like in his argument, I don't know. Yeah. It just, the whole argument was just mad. And then they had to go to the driver's dinner and sit like far away from each other.
They said reports are saying that the drivers all got there before George, and so they left like 2 chairs next to Max. So that when George came in, that was like his option, and George like dragged the chair to the other side of the table. I'm like, y'all are ridiculous. This is like some petty, Real Housewives of Monaco type shit. I love it. I live for it. When
you think about it though, like their social standing probably hasn't, like their abilities to be social hasn't changed much from high school, because did they really ever learn to socialize,
No, that's the thing. I'm like, they probably have disliked each other for so long, all of them. I feel like they all just tolerate each other, because let them tell it, and it's like, oh yeah, we're not really that great of friends. I think Lando kind of said that at some point in the past like few weeks as well. He's like, yeah, me and Max aren't that great of friends.
Lando said that to cover his own back. He said that to cover his own back, because he knows that he's been so soft on Max recently, and then Max decided to be like, yeah, I'm going to shove you off the track. I don't give a shit about all the niceness that you've been showing me. And even Nico Rosberg actually said it as well. Like, he was on fire with his commentary today, because I feel like he was saying things from an observational point of view that a lot of us observe, and that the commentary teams usually skirt around. They don't say the facts as we kind of see it, which is that Lando is very nice towards Max, and Max does not ever repay him that same kindness.
He never would. Yeah. Yeah, that was something George said he said, like, Max said something like, I was going to let you by, but now I'm not. And I'm like, when would Max ever say that? Like, the thing with George is like, just because he says stuff, I think in like a calm, convincing manner, doesn't mean that it always like makes the most sense. And I think that's kind of where I'm like, Max might have some points. George definitely has his points. I definitely also would have preferred for him to leave Abu Dhabi out of it, especially like, this is Abu Dhabi that we have arrived to. Lewis is leaving. He's emotional for a bunch of other reasons. Like, I don't think it's your place to like drudge up all of these scenarios that, for what we know, at least Lewis kind of has, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, moved on from, you know what I mean? Because anytime he's asked about it, now he kind of just tries to deflect from it. So yeah, I think it is weird that George is bringing up stuff that like doesn't necessarily like involve him to make a point, and then, like you said, dragging Toto in. The optics look weird. Like, we know what happened after Abu Dhabi with Mercedes specifically, not George. So yeah, for them to be like now, like, yeah, Abu Dhabi and was a disgrace. It's like, okay, something in the milk isn't clean. So yeah, I would have preferred to not have to hear that from anybody that's not Lewis, to be quite honest. Because like, yes, I know George sent out the 2 tweets after Abu Dhabi, but like nobody was really saying anything in season as this was happening. And I feel like for me, like George specifically, like I know he can't change anything. He doesn't have that kind of power, but like being like the GPDA president means that you do have a bit louder megaphone than most other people. In the driver's situation at the very least. So it's like, we've seen him send out strong letters before. No one sent out a letter for Lewis advocating for him to get his shit back. Like, nobody. So for me, it's just like, feels like performance, which is why I'm like, he made points, but I'm also like, you are only making them specifically when it benefits you. And Toto, the whole thing with the team, like, I just feel like in general, like, it's been so disappointing seeing how this season has played out and how we finally are getting to the end. And like, this is what we're the most incensed by as a team. Like, to me, I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I know that George is staying, and I know that that's his driver for next year, but it's just like, y'all are using shit that has nothing to do with George to try to win a beef with Max over a one place penalty. Yeah. Like, yeah.
I think that's literally George's ammo this whole season, is just like, speak on things and then that are to do with him and bring Lewis into it. Like, every single time, even when he like didn't make it well off the start line last week, it was just like, But as you said, the fighting is done on track. And tomorrow, Max and George, Gasly's in between them, but they all line up. Max in front and George in front and Max just behind. Sorry, I was right the first time. Max in front, George just behind on the track. So we will see how they if they come to any collisions.
So I feel like maybe we'll see a different side of Max, because the other news we got, which I was like, speaking of PR, this was like the checkmate of all checkmates. So to throw a little fire blanket over top of this grenade that has gone off this weekend, Max and Kelly Piquet announced that they're expecting their first child together. And I mean, obviously good for them. I'm happy for them, whatever. But the timing sent me to orbit, like, for real. Like, I was just like, this is how are you going to out PR merchant the PR merchant? You know what I mean? Like, this is some masterclass type stuff. So
it felt like you guys can chat, but I've got real shit going on over here.
Right,
like, that's kind of
family. Yeah. So I'm wondering if Max, now that he's going to be, I know he considers Penelope like his bonus child or whatever, but like, now that he's got some skin in the game with, his own child for real, like, I wonder if he's going to change his driving style a little bit to be a little less dangerous. Crazy.
I really doubt that. I think the most you could maybe expect from Max is an earlier retirement, now that he has two kids to look after, and he's going to be more of a family man, even more so than he is. I think one of the disgusting things is, like, I did see a lot of comments online of people like speaking on the unborn child. I am not down with that. I think that is so insane. Like,
don't be weird.
Anybody else's unborn child out of your mouth, like, even if it's Max and Kelly Piquet, is like, that's mad. But I think, like, literally, so I have a long-standing theory that Max doesn't really care to stay in Formula One for the like long term.
Agreed.
I think he's openly said it many, many times. Like, I'm not trying to be here till I'm 40.
He does not.
I think we even spoke about this last time we were on. And I think this just gives him more of a catalyst. Like, it's just another reason for him to venture out and find a different version of racing that he can still enjoy, but maybe it's not F1. Doesn't have to deal with all of the different like PR and media requirements that he doesn't really enjoy, and all of the traveling, all these kind of things. So I think the only thing that will happen is as I said, perhaps an earlier retirement.
I can see that.
Maybe he would have done. So
I can definitely see that. I feel like if he'll ride this last contract out and then kind of do some deciding. And he is a family man. Like, I see the photos. I see the pictures. They have, it seems like he just really enjoys his life outside of Formula One, and he definitely is not afraid to let us know that at all times. So I could definitely see the early retirement happening, or, like I said, just writing out the contract and just calling it a day. So, I mean, he's achieved a lot, so it's not like he has to stay around.
He's got his 4 asterisk championships. Right. But also, I feel like, next year will be another season with the same regulations. Everybody's kind of got a hold on the cars, which, we'll talk about qualifying in a second. But I think you can see that there will be a lot more competition next year. And one thing I think Max doesn't do well is when he has to like literally drive through the trenches. It's not his game. He's not his bag. He prefers to be out front, breezing through the air, like not thinking about anybody else. So I think this will just help push him out the door, to be honest.
Yeah, that's what and I clocked it, like, because I'm just like, that's exactly true. Like, anytime it was like that season where he was riding off in the sunset and people were like, oh, he's so mature, he's such a different driver. And it's like, yeah, because nobody's around him. And the minute that he has to drive in the midfield, he's like back to his terrorist activities. Like, it's not rocket science, but it's just like they keep pushing these narratives that he's this changed man. And it's like, no, he's not. He just had the fastest car for a really long time and a bum teammate. So now that we have a season brewing up for 2025 where, it's even the midfield. I mean, like, that's kind of what I am excited about. You're seeing some veterans kind of move to the midfield. So they'll have strong driver pairings or, stronger driver pairings. Like the top, 3 teams, I think are going to be pretty well. Mercedes, I think, still is going to be in the relatively same position. Like, I don't know. I don't want to say I don't foresee them being worse than they already are, but like, who knows, honestly, what's going on there. But yeah, I just feel like it's going to be very competitive top to bottom. And even just a few races having to be around the riffraff is going to be volatile. So
exactly. I think if the second half of the season is anything to go by, there's a lot more stronger cars on the grid at the moment. So, like let's touch on quali. So,
yes,
in Q1, you had even like Valtteri made it to P1 in Q1, which was insane because he's not had a great year. But you can see that there's something happening in all of the lower teams where, maybe it's finally starting to click, or they can extract performance, even if it's only over one lap. And those kind of things will really disrupt the grid because, imagine if Valtteri ends up, P4 or P5, and the first session of the race, the first segment of the race, they have to get past these kind of people. They have to get past the back markers. So it always makes things more interesting when you have those moments. And I think we'll see a lot more of that in 2025.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. We just keep saying, like, it just definitely feels like something is brewing. And like you mentioned, like Haas, even for example, like the start of the year, we get a whole new team principal out of the blue. He's part of the team for a really long time. So obviously he knows what's going on, but it's been so nice to see how well they've been able to do in the past, like several months, to the point where we had Nico Hülkenberg up there at some point in quali, Kevin Magnussen even at some point put in like a great lap. Like they just looked so fast in this quali. So and definitely it leaves them a little bit like out of place during the race, because how the race pace kind of falls off a bit, but still it's just like, man, like it's going to be very competitive next year. So anything else from quali kind of stand out for you?
I mean, obviously we had Lewis, who qualified P18. That was just unfortunate. Like, it just summed up the entire
it was like, of course. Yeah. Of course this would happen. I was livid. This is like another instant. I mean, this is, like you said, pattern repeating with Mercedes, leaving their cars out, both George and Lewis, till like the last minute, like knowing we need time to prep those tires. There's traffic. We had a Haas in front of us. I just gave him props, but Haas was right in front of us, dirty air the whole time. Then he pulls over to the side to let Lewis around, hits a bollard. The bollard goes into the track, and of course it, lands under Lewis's car. Because that's the kind of luck that we have. And it definitely was so frustrating, everything all together, so frustrating, because it's like, why are we leaving them so late? But it's like, this is the last time. Yeah. This is it.
It's like that little momentary relief afterwards where you're like, oh, okay, cool. Because he was hitting green sectors on all like those mini sectors beforehand. So I have no doubt that he would have literally at least made it into Q2, if not into Q3, and he would have been fine. And one of the craziest things to me is, like, he was P9, I think, when they started. And And like there's track evolution. We 100% knew that P9 is not a safe position.
Right.
Why would you leave it so late? There is absolutely no reason to leave it that late. I didn't understand.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, and that's the thing. I'm just like, there's so much stuff out of Lewis's control. Like, it's bad enough the season that he's having with Quali. And like, obviously, whatever he can do within his control, he's going to do it. But then it's just like, you see stuff that happens and you're just like, how are we supposed to deal with this? Like, the team is sending them out at the last moment. Like, I think he made it to the line with like 5 seconds to spare.
Yeah, literally.
Like, come on.
I think he was the last person.
The last person, yeah. Actually, what did he say? He said, we did something different. We went out on the hard tire, which was odd, still in qualifying. And then we're just out of sequence to everybody else. So we were the last on track and I was the last because I chose to go second. So let me wait until this ran out of time, basically. Then I got the bollard from a back marker in the end. Up until that point, I was the same pace as George. So yeah, it is what it is. Definitely not a great qualifying session, but we've had so many great ones. So it's okay. Yeah.
Good on Lewis to always see the bright side of things. I think he's probably just counting down the hours, the minutes until he gets out of that damn car.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was just unfortunate because for FP1, 2, and 3, he had been showing a mega pace. I even thought it was interesting again because Toto's been like, we're going to give Lewis the best car for his final race, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, so wait, hold on a second. Why weren't you guys doing this all year? Lewis literally is putting seconds on half seconds or whatever. But he is literally
wake it up
so far ahead of George to the point where people are like, did you stop their cars? Because this is literally the amount that George has been ahead of Lewis the past few races. And something weird was going on. I don't care.
And George was having the same complaints. I think FP3 kind of highlighted it specifically where he was like, the car feels normal, but it's just slow. Mm-hmm. The rear is sliding.
His rear is
yeah. It's like all the stuff that Lewis has been complaining about. But when Lewis complains about it, he's washed. So is it being washed contagious or... Because, the week before, Toto was calling all the fans idiots, which I thought was funny because I'm sitting here like, well, I think it's funny when the fans get called out on this stuff because we're just spectators. Like, all we're doing is connecting dots. And I feel like the dots aren't even that hard to put together. Like, something in the milk ain't clean. Something's not right. And so, yeah, it is fascinating that all of a sudden people are having the similar issues and can't outperform it, So Lewis ended that session P3, George ended P6. But what do I know? Yeah. You know what I mean?
What do we know? What do we know?
And
then his future teammate,
poor
little Charlie boy.
Oh my God. Who has
I'm like, you two are a pair. I'm going to love you two next year because you two are a pair. Jesus Christ.
We're going to suffer so bad next year. Like, oh my God. Having a bad luck off and your opponent is Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. So Charles gets the 10th place grid penalty because he has to take a new, I think, battery for his power unit. So that already kind of sets them back on their mission to try to overtake McLaren in the Constructor Championship finale. But then for Quali, he puts in a great lap and it gets deleted. And unlike Perez and Piastri a little bit earlier in the session, his does not get reinstated. So he has that 10th place grid. Where did he end up? He was like 14th,
20th.
But he's going to be last when they apply the penalty. But I think it was like 14th or something like that. And it's just like, how are you supposed to win the constructors from back there?
I think McLaren's got this. If you want to do some bets, guys, I think if you're a gambling man or woman out there, I think you can safely say that McLaren have got this tied up.
Yeah, they got they locked out the front row. Norris ended up on pole, Piastri P2. Sainz held it down for Ferrari. He's in P3, so we'll see if he can do anything. But to your point, I think McLaren have it. I kind of want Oscar to win this. I'm not going to lie, but I know it's a long race. Yeah. I know it's a long race, so we'll see.
next year. I'm holding out hope for next year.
Yeah.
Everything has been on Norris's back this year. I think, he has excelled in some areas and he has not excelled as much as people wanted him to in other areas.
Right.
But he's still been the number one. And I think if Oscar gets to a strong start in 2025, they will truly have to consider him as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be interesting next year.
Yeah. And obviously I think too, if like the cars kind of start roundabout like where they are, like we don't have so much like up and down with the development, at least to start the season, I think that will be even better. Cause obviously this year we had Red Bull won the first 5 races easily. So yeah, if it's like more mixed up to start next season, the way that it has been to end this season, I think that it's going to be amazing. I'm excited just to see the turnaround that these teams have had in terms of development. Because at the beginning of this reg period, like it was just looking bleak. Like a season like this even felt impossible, like a pipe dream because it just looked like it was Red Bull all the way. So yeah, now that we're talking about like possibly Piastri and Norris kind of, battling it out. Obviously you're going to have Charles and Lewis, which I genuinely cannot wait for that. I was joking. I was
I'm looking forward to. No, I was going to say, you go.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the thing I'm looking forward to is just the amount of rookies that are going to be on the grid next year.
Yeah.
I think that's going to cause havoc and I can't wait. Oh my days. Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. I mean, because they're up and down the grid. You've got Kimi at Mercedes, Jack doing at Alpine. I don't even know everybody that's going to be here. Ollie Behrman's coming in. So it's going to be a lot of up and down the grid. But similarly, I feel like the pairings have been all right as well. Like somebody more veterans with somebody more new. So yeah. It's just, 2025, 90 days away or something like that, till the new season starts. So,
okay, let's do a countdown.
Not too far off, but anything else from Quali that you kind of stood out to you?
Just shout out Nico Hülkenberg, who, managed to put on P4 ahead of Max Verstappen. I think that was a really nice way to end his time with Haas before he moves to
Audi. Yeah.
Audi, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think, Valtteri getting into Q3 and Nico, getting into P4, I think that's really nice for them.
Right.
Yuki out qualifying Liam Lawson again. I get it. Everybody's like, oh well, he's been in the car for 4 years. He's had the kind of time to get comfortable with the car. Liam's only been in the car for a year. Cool. Right. Give him the Red Bull seat. He's been in the car for 4 years.
He's got the experience. Hello.
Anyway.
No, I agree. Listen, no, because now I'm getting pissed off. So the fact that Liam is potentially going to be promoted to the Red Bull seat, it sounds like that's what the rumors are all saying.
Yeah, it seems like a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, it's just come on. It's their choice, their decision, whatever. But it's just not even the appearance that we're trying to make an actual decision based off of talent or experience. We're just scooting him up to the main seat after a few races where I feel again, he hasn't been the worst, but it hasn't been enough to earn a promotion in my opinion. And again, Yuki is still outperforming him. So I just feel it's just a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry. I feel do I want Yuki to stay in the Red Bull environment in general? Not really, but I still feel he's earned the respect to have at least a test and to be considered for something that everybody else is gunning for. What is the point of having him stuck in that seat and everybody else around him is able to move upwardly besides him? So
I have a theory, but I'd need to do more research before I explain what the theory is. It's to do with Honda and Red Bull and ownership and power. I think there's a power struggle going on there, and that's why they don't want to promote Yuki. But in order for me to say that, I would with more confidence, I would have to do more research.
Yeah, I mean, it seems political. Like, I mean, there's no other way around it. I feel like, and I don't think it's just that they don't like Yuki or don't rate Yuki. Like, to your point, I do think there's other like things at play. But I mean, for a season, 2025 season, I don't see how that hurts anybody. Yeah. I don't see how everybody can't accomplish their goals.
Liam, if you really hate him halfway through, just swap them back. But like,
right.
I don't know, man.
Yeah. And then of course you have the temperament thing, which I'm like, let's not even go there anymore. Like you hear Max cussing everybody out, Liam cussing everybody out. Like Yuki, it's just par for the course. So it's just like his temperament's not right. He's not experienced enough. Like all this stuff they said, he's not dedicated. And it's just like, he changed everything to try to do what he needed to do to get this seat. So I just feel like, at this point, it's just more of a little slap in the face than anything to not even just in the media play up. Like, he's an option. I feel like he's at least deserved that much.
The haters. His enemies are at home. He needs to just send some grenades.
Nothing in
this
sport
place
is fair, man. Okay, so let me set the grid for tomorrow, and then we can maybe talk predictions or just maybe what we hope for the last race. Number 20, starting, and again, I don't have the full final list because everybody's getting penalties. So as it finished in quali, P20, Jack Doohan, 19, Franco Colapinto, P18 is Hamilton, P17 is Zhou, 16 is Albon, who also will be getting a penalty as well as Franco. They both are taking, I think, new power units. So they both have like 5-place grid penalties as well. Kevin Magnussen is at P15, Leclerc P14, but again, he drops down because of his 10-place penalty. Lance Stroll will be starting P13, Lawson P12, Tsunoda P11, Perez is P10, Valtteri will be P9, Alonso P8, Russell starting P7, Gasly P6, Verstappen P5, Hülkenberg P4, Carlos Sainz is starting P3, Piastri is starting on the front row, and Lando Norris has pole position. Some out of place people, like we talked about, Nico Hülkenberg up there as well, Gasly, Bottas in the top 10. So do you have any maybe predictions or general like ideas of what you think might happen tomorrow?
I reckon obviously Lewis is going to come through the pack. I think hopefully we'll get to top 10. I'm almost certain he'll get to top 10. The car is fast for him this weekend. And I don't know if Sainz is going to end up staying on the podium or getting ahead of Piastri and Norris. I reckon, we should also watch Verstappen and just see if he ends up on the podium as well, because he's not that far behind, really. I don't know. I think it's pretty much going to be a very straightforward race, and if there's anything crazy like a Latifi moment at the end of the race, there's not much jeopardy anyway, so I don't think it will do much.
I agree. I think besides the constructor thing, it's pretty much just, I don't know. I think for me, I'm just excited that this is the last race. I think, like I said, my one wish, I hope if anybody wins this, it's Oscar. I would love to see him end the season with a win. I just think, why not? Just send it. I feel like, yes, to your point, I think Lewis will definitely make up places, as will Charles. I'm just nervous for their luck, though. You know what I mean? Like, same thing in Qatar. Lewis was making up places and then puncture. So I don't know anymore. I feel like I don't want to put any like hopeful vibes in the universe, because I think I'm good on that from now. But yeah, overall, I don't know. I feel like I hope it'll be at least somewhat interesting, at least in like the opening stages. Maybe an opening lap fiasco scenario might happen for everybody, but 44, please. And I don't know. That's pretty much it for me. I don't know. I feel like at this point in the season, my brain is just mush. I'm just going to sit and just enjoy it and hope for the best.
you going anywhere special to watch it? Are you doing anything special for it?
No, it'll be pretty early in the morning here. I think it starts at 8 a.m. So yeah, there's nowhere to go. So I'll be in bed, me and my heating pad and my humidifier and my cup of tea. And yeah, I'm just going to have a good time. Like at least it's early. So if something pisses me off, I have the whole day to like decompress. So won't have to go to bed angry. What about you? Are you going to do anything special to commemorate?
Well, I'm supposed to be going with Tandy to the Red Bull F1.
Oh, that's right.
However, she's she's not been able to get down because we've had a really bad storm here.
Like a snowstorm or rain?
Like rain, but English, like British travel doesn't do well with different weather.
Right.
So. I don't know. We'll see what happens. If not, I'll be watching it at home with my family. And if I can, then I will probably attend that party. And I'll probably be wearing some Lewis Hamilton merch. So
of course,
is that rude?
100%.
I don't really care, but yeah.
I mean, what are they going to do? Kick you out?
Exactly.
I mean, yeah. Well, that being said, thank you everybody out there for listening or watching. Please don't forget, if you are enjoying the content, to subscribe to the channel, like this video. You can support us through Patreon and get ad-free content. And then you also, if you don't mind, could leave us reviews on our Spotify or Apple, just to let everybody know that you're enjoying the show. I think that would be lovely. As for me and as for Paris, we will see you guys hopefully soon, sometime soon. Enjoy tomorrow's race. Enjoy the end of the season. Enjoy Lewis's last experience with Mercedes, if it's possible to do that. And remember, no matter what happens in life, keep it on the black stuff. Bye.
Look, mate, if you've got this far, clearly you like what we do. So here's a link to subscribe to the Quicks Up F1 family. Give that a click. And here's another link to some more cool on our channel. Sorry, cool stuff. And remember, no matter what happens, keep it on the black stuff. Click the stuff. Click the links. Click the links. Click the links. There. They're there.